Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy Alex across the pond over in Germany. And we're going to jump into some pretty exciting stuff that's been going on in the crypto world today, from Bitcoin hitting 70 again, all the way through to our next batch mint. Alex, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey man, I'm great. I hope you're doing good as well. I mean, we have had a pretty intense past week. And as you mentioned, whenever I hear your voice, I feel like, opening CoinMarketCap to check out the markets, because I feel like, we always start off with what happened in the crypto markets. And it was, like I said, a pretty intense week. We had Donald Trump talking on the Bitcoin conference. We actually had a pretty big rally over the past few weeks, but that kind of is like limited to like a couple of coins only, because I feel like Bitcoin is doing pretty good lately. As you mentioned, it went to 70K, was kind of rejected, went down to 66. We got ETH that actually had some big news with the ETF launch a couple days ago. We have Solana, which crossed 190 today, actually, which is crazy. And then we have like a lot of altcoins who still have not moved yet. And yeah, a crazy week, like I said. And I feel like the first news that we had back then was actually the Ethereum ETF. That was actually all over X. A lot of people were talking about that even before we all had all that um, stuff with the Bitcoin conference going. And like, what about you? How have you witnessed the ETF launch? Do you feel like it was comparable to what Bitcoin did? I mean, I think I read that the ETH ETF generated almost 40% of Bitcoin ETF's trading volume. It probably didn't impact the price as many people hoped. But yeah, we have a high trading volume. We have also a lot of outflows, mainly coming from Grayscale. Yeah, what's your opinion on the whole ETH ETF situation?
I'm a little bit mixed on the whole Ethereum story, to be honest with you. I'm happy to see Ethereum trading as an ETF. Obviously, it makes it available to more people across the world, and more adoption is good for everyone in the space, honestly, in my opinion. But when I look at the numbers, obviously the numbers weren't quite as large as Bitcoin. I think that's to be expected. Looks like the most actively traded ETFs were Grayscale with 450 million in volume, and then iShares with 245 million in volume. Looks like a Fidelity came in third with 137 million, at least according to what Bitwise is saying on this article. But I mean, I think that's all strongly positive news overall. ETH in general has been on my don't care about it list, just because when they dropped proof of stake, or I'm sorry, proof of work for proof of stake, basically that changed the story for Ethereum. I think it was a huge mistake that they made. And, at the end of the day, I haven't really seen a business use case, or like a massive use case for Ethereum that can't be done by something else like Solana, for example. And of course, Solana is much, much less expensive in terms of token price than Ethereum is. So I think, Ethereum is still sitting on first mover advantage as like the first alt chain, basically. And then you've got Solana creeping up. And I think more people are realizing that something like Solana can do what something like Ethereum does, and maybe to a better degree. So on some level, I'm still holding my ETH. I'm sitting on, as many tokens as I had from, before all this news about ETH has happened over the last year and a half. But I haven't really added to that position. And I'm not going to. I'm just going to sit back and let it run. My last buys at ETH were like at $800. So I'm still sitting on, decent gains for ETH. And I expect it to run with everything else during the bull, and I might end up just selling it all. So that's kind of where I'm at with ETH, man. How about you?
I think what's pretty interesting about the whole ETH ETF is we have talked about like if it's better, or if we would prefer actually owning the Bitcoin ETF or owning Bitcoin as some kind of direct asset. and it felt like, there is not much of a difference if you actually, like, just in terms of your like rewards and profits. But obviously the SEC refused to allow staking for the ETH ETF, which means that people are, lacking like 3 to 5% annual yield from staking rewards. And yeah, do you think that is a reason why holding like direct ETH is more attractive to people?
More attractive to which people, I guess would be my first question.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good question, because people, the question here is if people who actually invest into that ETF would consider holding the asset itself,
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I think most of the institutional investors are going to stay institutional investors. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because if you can have a third party that's responsible for ensuring that no real mistakes are made with your wallet, then that's makes it easier to sleep at night, right? Like imagine you went to bed tonight and you had, I don't know, your life savings, whether that's $10,000 or $1 million or $10 million. You don't want to worry whether or not someone's going to gain access to your wallet or your phone or your computer system and wipe you out. When you have it through a trust or through a third-party exchange and you're a traditional investor, I think 9 times out of 10 you're just going to hold whatever the exchange holds or whatever that particular custodian wants you to hold, because somewhere along the line inside the agreement they're probably responsible for your funds, or at least making sure that you're not wiped out.
Yeah, but if it's not like the staking, okay, but what do you think is the reason for the lack of interest and performance of the ETF? I mean, I think I read that Grayscale has pretty high fees as well. Or do you think it's just like people people prefer waiting for, I don't know, Solana maybe? Yeah, why is it like underperforming compared to Bitcoin?
I just think it's first mover, right? Like at the end of the day, Bitcoin is the granddaddy of all the chains. I mean, we can slice it up any way we want, but we can't ignore Bitcoin. And now that you've got politicians like Trump, touting wanting to be the Bitcoin president, saying he's going to fire Gary Gensler, the first thing he does when he gets into office, people who've never heard about Bitcoin before have been hearing about it over the last 6 to 8 months because it's been all over the financial news, with MicroStrategy, with the talking heads on all your favorite financial channels. But Ethereum's always kind of a backseat to that. It's the second play, right? And so I feel like the early adoption of something like an Ethereum by the traditional investor is going to be governed by how much they hear about it and how much their financial advisor is pushing it on them. And I don't know, I mean, I had one conversation with a financial advisor on Facebook the other day, and he was basically betting me. I'd made some post about investing in Bitcoin, or at least you should hold some of your assets in Bitcoin. And then he had basically responded, saying that's a stupid thing to do. You shouldn't hold any Bitcoin. You should be in stocks and this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Like the stock market's rigged, A, and B, at the end of the day, there's no volatility, at least no positive volatility for the average person. So the average person making 8 to 10% a year is losing out to inflation by a large margin. So we had this big, long conversation. And, he was trying to sell me on 401ks and mutual funds and all this bullshit. And I was basically just trying to explain to him that there's no way the average person can escape the trap of, financial insecurity by investing in traditional markets. And they just weren't going to hear it, right? So I don't think a financial advisor in the traditional world is going to push much past Bitcoin. And even pushing Bitcoin is a big deal for them. So I think going to Ethereum, man, that's a bridge too far, It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, but what does that mean in the end for, like, you said it, we got like the first mover, Bitcoin. Then there is ETH, which actually had like some kind of special position because, people have always doubted that altcoins can actually have ETFs. Now we got Ethereum. So do you think no one will care for Solana when it's going to be released?
Not necessarily. I think the excitement around a particular technology just depends on the moment that you're living through. And on some level, Ethereum's facing multiple headwinds, right? If we look at the conversion from proof of work to proof of stake, okay, so that lost all the people who believed in, actual energy being expended to create a token, right? Because now you can create them artificially in cyberspace, and it rewards the largest holders because you get paid an interest rate on whatever you've staked. Okay, so that's a big no-no for people who believe in proof of work and actually having to earn the tokens. They hate that already. So you lost all those people. And then the big, unique selling proposition for Ethereum was that, okay, well, we can program on top of Ethereum. And, Ethereum was sort of born out of this idea that that Bitcoin maxis didn't want programming to ride on top of Bitcoin. Well, what do we have now? We've got basically NFTs in the form of ordinals on Bitcoin. We've got shit coins in the form of runes on top of Bitcoin, right? We have companies programming on top of Bitcoin. In fact, MicroStrategy Orange is specifically a development arm of MicroStrategy that is developing around Bitcoin. We've got the Lightning Network, right? So we've made the gap between what Bitcoin could and couldn't do smaller relative to what Ethereum's unique selling proposition was. And so when you face all of those headwinds, the switchover, the competition from something like Solana, which is much cheaper and much faster, then I think you're in a tough spot if you're an ETH person, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be competitive if this is where you stop, right? So Ethereum needs to come out with some way of re-energizing the market, and I'm sure they will on some level, and they're constantly dropping updates, which is just proof that it's a centralized platform. But they're constantly dropping updates, and they're looking to drop another one. I just saw, I didn't read the specifics of it in the near future. But they haven't really done anything to excite their base, and other chains are, whether it's Bitcoin or Solana. Who knows where people ultimately end up. But I think Solana has made up a lot of ground in that it does everything that Ethereum can do. It does it cheaper, it does it faster. And it offers a greater entry point for a younger investor coming in who wants to hold a whole token. That's a big deal. Like I saw somebody post on the other day, excuse me, it was a younger guy, or I'm assuming it's a guy, it could be a girl, but it's a younger person that had posted. They were super stoked because they had acquired their first 0.1 Bitcoins, okay? So 0.1 Bitcoin right now is about $7,000, right? So they had, acquired 0.1 Bitcoin. That was a huge achievement. And when you're looking at the market as a younger person, it's just like when you look at the stock market as a younger person, you think that holding a whole share of something or a whole coin somehow makes it more valuable than holding a fraction. There's a psychological game being played there. So I feel like, ETH has a long road to hoe, man. I'm not sure if they're going to, I'm not sure what they're going to release, but at this moment in time, they're being outpaced and outclassed by Bitcoin and by Solana, both.
But don't you feel like, especially when you look at Solana, I see where all that comes from. I mean, the main arguments are always like it's cheaper and has faster transactions. And when I check Vitalik's X, and he's talking about new roadmaps for ETH, it's always like very technical. I feel like I have no idea what he's talking about. Could be in Chinese, I would understand as much, but I feel like, don't you think that the whole excitement for Solana and the whole attention on Solana is mainly driven by all these meme coins?
Not really. No, I think for the degens, I think when you look at, what you want to call it, crypto X or crypto Twitter, I mean, the degens are out there pumping their bags. They're trying, or at least they're trying to really hard, and it's kind of funny to watch because it's such transparent bullshit that if you have even half a brain, you can see through it. And I feel like meme coins brought Solana to the forefront in the news. Like if you're looking at crypto news, you saw everything and anything about Solana meme coins. You had a bunch of airdrops back to back starting at the end of last year, going into the first quarter of this year. And so people picked up a lot of free money. And then, of course, people who were late to the game wanted to jump in. And then, people who were smart started releasing more meme coins. And these new people started buying these other meme coins. And the cycle just kind of continued. But when you look at the real market, like the market of people who are trying to research where this thing is going in the future, not just concerned whether or not they're going to, hit the next meme coin just right. People who are paying attention, are listing off the factors that I listed off earlier. So for example, when I say I'm not buying Ethereum, I'm not buying Ethereum not because I don't think it's a good technology. I'm not buying it because I think Solana has more potential. And the potential doesn't have anything to do with meme coins. It has everything to do with the fact that the technology is just as good and less expensive than its first competitor, which is Ethereum. And so all meme coins aside, you look at the Saga phone, this is business tech, right? You look at the community that's building Solana. It's a pretty tight-knit group, and they're releasing speed updates, like Fire Dancer's coming. And when you start thinking about what a business needs, right, in the world of commerce, you need a system that will work for you at low cost and be reliable and make sure that it's not going to sort of balloon into a massive expense. And with something like Ethereum, although it might appear to be more reliable than Solana because Solana's had some outages, when you look at transaction speeds and the cost of those transactions, even under proof of stake, it's way more expensive than running on something like Solana. And so when I look at that and I see what a business needs a strong, powerful, fast database that is affordable. I see more businesses choosing something like a Solana platform over an Ethereum platform. That's just my own personal opinion based on having been in the market. If someone, if I go back to the days when I'm running a gym, if someone presents me two opportunities for software that I'm using to manage my business or manage my business data or transactions, and they both do the same thing, but one of them is more expensive and slower, then I'm choosing the one that's faster and less expensive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, easy decision, definitely, and I totally agree on that. I mean, I'm a much bigger fan of Solana as well, and I feel like if I imagine the future, 2, 3, 4 years from now, I can definitely imagine like going into a Walmart paying with Solana rather than paying with ETH. Um, and yeah, you mentioned the outages as well, but I feel like with uh, that's actually the main criticism most people have about Solana, but most of these coins never had such a high transaction volume as Solana and never had to cope with that situation. So yeah, I feel like it has been pretty good lately, and with all the updates coming and everything, I'm pretty positive that we won't have these problems in the near future again. And I mean, look at traditional markets. Like, how many times did we have like traditional like bank systems or something like being down? Um, like especially like these systems that people thought were reliable, and in the end, there is like always a chance that yeah, that these things don't work out as you imagine, and that's why I feel like as long as you have like a 99.9% uptime, everything should be good. But we should maybe like take a look at the bigger picture as well, because you just mentioned that Donald Trump was speaking at the Bitcoin conference, and it's funny. Have you seen the post from Elon Musk who claimed that Google is actually kind of like have some kind of censorship on Donald Trump? Like when you Google President Donald Trump, it doesn't give you any results.
Yeah, I did see that. That the AI results was that the post you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty funny.
yeah. It's crazy, man. But yeah, you mentioned it, and I just want to mention some key points that he talked about. Like the first thing you already said that he wanted to fire Gary Gensler. Like first thing he does. But he also said that he wants to create a US government strategic national Bitcoin stockpile if elected. Can you explain me what a stockpile is?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he kind of used the wrong words there. But if you think in terms of what countries need to survive, and then you, excuse me, and then you think in terms of their relationships and how they leverage those relationships to survive, for example, anytime there's unrest or there's financial trouble, the people look to the government as the problem because government over the last 200 or 300 years has presented itself as the solution to every problem. When the truth is, people should look to themselves and stop electing these morons. But at the end of the day, if a country's in trouble, it needs to have something in reserve. Just like you or I, if we're in financial trouble inside our households, we need to have some money sitting on the side that we can leverage in case of emergency. So the strategic reserve he's referring to is analogous to the strategic oil reserve. For example, the U.S. Keeps millions and millions and millions of barrels of oil inside the U.S. Strategic Oil Reserve. And that's there in case we have a war, or we have a problem with a trading partner, that we can pull from the Strategic Oil Reserve long enough for us to bring domestic production online, right? Same thing with a Bitcoin reserve. What he's referring to is we should have the ability to back our financial system with something that is a proven scarce asset that can't be sort of, inflated away. And in the case of financial insecurity, we could leverage the Bitcoin and get ourselves to a better position, just like you would if you were in your own home. So that's all that really means. And he specifically didn't call it a bank reserve, which I think was important because, obviously the bank reserves are US dollars, or maybe if you still believe the old story of gold in Fort Knox. So he didn't try to counteract that or like threaten the banks. He just said, we're going to have this other thing over here that could be a financial security blanket in the case of, right? And that's really all it is.
Okay, that's interesting because prior to his appearance on the conference, there was like a lot of stuff being said on X, and I think some people were actually using the term reserve and like telling everyone that that it was like so bullish if he actually announced that the United States would use Bitcoin as some kind of reserve. But I think they were actually referring to the bank reserve then, if I'm right. But yeah, he didn't do it, but he said plenty of other things as well. I'm actually like just reading from Roger Guru. I haven't listened to the speech, so Roger Guru is actually claiming that he said Bitcoin is going to the moon. I'm not sure if it's a quote. I think you've seen the speech. Did he say that?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he said a bunch of things that were just completely unrelated to, like Bitcoin or politics in general. I mean, he spent the first 10 minutes of the speech just basically acknowledging people. Like he acknowledged Michael Saylor and he acknowledged Elon Musk and he acknowledged all these people who have, put technology forward, talking about what great people they are and, how they have shaped the markets in some way. And it was really entertaining because he did this for, like I said, a good 10, maybe 12 minutes. He just went on and on and on praising people, right? And it's really cool because my wife made me watch this. It's funny. My wife is Canadian, right? And, Canadian is, like leftist paradise basically. And, she comes from Alberta, which is the largest oil producing province and probably the wealthiest province in Canada. And basically Alberta, is basically tasked with funding the other provinces' socialism, And so there's more probably conservative people in Alberta than anywhere in Canada. But, so she came home from a meeting the other night with a Trump sign that she wanted to put in our yard. And I was like, I'm not putting that in my yard. I'm not one of these people that puts political signs in my yard. And I just don't, that's just not who I am, right? But, after listening to Trump speak, he gets away with a lot of bombastic sayings because he is so effusive with the praise. Like he just praises people. He'll praise people and he'll build up this emotional bank account with that person. And then the next thing you know, he'll tear them down, but not so much as to overcome the fact that he praised them earlier, right? So he did this a lot with the crowd, where he would praise the crowd and then he would infantilize the crowd. But not to the point of, completely withdrawing all of his emotional bank account with them. And so he does a really good job of this, of praising and then taking the praise away. And I think that's one of the reasons that he's so dynamic when he speaks, is because people are waiting to see, is he going to say something good about me? Is he, is he going to tear me down? What's he going to do next? But I mean, he didn't really say much, to be honest with you. Like, he's definitely pro Bitcoin. He's definitely pro, stopping the invasion at the border. He's definitely pro getting rid of people like the SEC chair, Gary Gensler. But outside of that, I mean, the speech was an hour of him just kind of riffing. There wasn't a lot said. And he would get the crowd going, and he said stuff like, Bitcoin's going to the moon and this and that and the other thing. But it wasn't like he's making this prediction. He's in the moment, and he's being part of the crowd, and he's sharing that energy with them, and he'll make these bombastic statements to energize the crowd. And so, I mean, if you boiled it all down, there was probably maybe 5 or 6 sentences in the whole hour-long speech that were of note, like newsworthy. The rest of it is just Trump being Trump, And so it's entertaining and enough to let you know where he stands, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's funny because I just mentioned that I haven't really seen the speech, but I know that when he was actually live, I was just checking X and trying to like get like a glimpse of what he said. And the first thing I read was actually from some kind of trading influencer. I don't know. He said, "Yeah, I'm shorting this nonsense." He has no idea what Bitcoin is. And then I checked like Coin Market Cap, and I basically saw Bitcoin going down from 69 to 66, and I was like, "Damn, what did Trump say?" And then like within 20 or 30 minutes, it was crazy, like so volatile, and you could see that the whole market was actually like watching that speech. And I have no idea what he said, but it went up pretty quick again. And we can see basically now that it kind of followed that path over the next days as well. Like we are moving between 66 and 69 in lightning speed. And yeah, what's funny is that you said like, Trump did like Trump things. Do you think when he's like in his car on his way to the conference, he's actually like thinking about a speech, or is he like kind of freestyling it and just like thinking of some key points he wants to mention?
I think Trump is like quintessential New York. You know what I mean? Like people go off on him about things that he says, and his confidence level bordering on just sheer craziness. But if you've ever talked to like the really energetic New Yorker, that's the energy you get, man. It's just riff after comment, and it just, everything builds on itself, and there's a lot of energy in the conversation, and there's a lot of bullshitting and a lot of joking around. And I feel like, if you're Trump and you've sort of built your business in New York, and you've done a lot of dealings in New York, and you've, built businesses and worked with unions and worked with governments and, worked with other entrepreneurs and, had to sit in deal rooms and keep a straight face, or had to sit in, a deal room and, make nice with someone. Like you develop all these characteristics around, the art of the deal that a lot of politicians don't get, because politicians, they have to placate to the masses. They have to pander to the masses, because politics is a popularity contest. It's like, who's going to win best looking in your class and in high school, right? Like, who's going to win that superlative? Well, whoever's most popular, right? Who's going to win most athletic? Well, whoever is most popular. You might have 3 or 4 athletes that are equally good, but the most popular one's going to win. And so politics is that. It's a popularity contest. And Trump, being that when he took the presidency, he refused to take a salary because he's already made his money. He doesn't need, to be paid, $400,000 a year or whatever it is the president makes now. And, they can't control him, right? So he's coming into this thing with a businessman's mentality where he wants to win, right? And you can hear this in his speech patterns, like he wants to win. And when he can tell that he has the energy of the crowd on his side, right? It doesn't matter what his speech said. He's going to go with that because he can see, like he's paying attention to the crowd and the energy, and he's going to ride that, right? And it doesn't really matter if it makes any sense because he knows at the end of the day, the energy is what's going to win him the election and win him the hearts and minds. It's not sitting there talking about facts. Nobody gives a fuck about the facts. They care about the story. So what's the story? Well, the story is we've got this business guy that doesn't need a government salary, who's already made his money, who isn't supported by the deep state, who basically throws up a middle finger to all these government bureaucrats that are sitting there sucking, money and life out of the economy, telling the average person who works, hey, that we're going to fix your cities, like that's the story, like he's one of us and that he wants to fix everything, right? Like he's not here to get a salary. This is not his job. He already made his money, right? And so as long as that's the story, that's the person he's going to draw in. And so I don't think like on the way in, he's thinking much about anything other than I got to hit maybe 5 or 6 talking points. And what happens in the other 55 minutes of the conversation or the speech doesn't really matter. I'm just going to get the crowd going. That's my personal opinion. I have no idea. That's just my guess.
But like, how is the story different today from like 4 years ago?
I don't really know that it is, other than, people in this country are more fed up than they were 4 years ago. And COVID was 4 years ago. We had the COVID scare, basically the last half of the Trump presidency, the last year of the Trump presidency. And since then, when Biden took over, people have become poorer and poorer and poorer. And this is largely because of government in general, not necessarily because of Biden or Trump. But both of those guys, Trump first, basically out of necessity, throwing money, pulling money off the printing press. And then Biden coming in and doing the same thing and then doing it for years. I mean, these guys and governments overall have printed a massive amount of money, and it's finally starting to make its way into the average person's, problem set. So when you go to the store to buy groceries, it's 40% more. When you go to the gas station, it's 40% more. Interest rates are up. People are seeing the cities like, like everybody's got a city that they like, but if you've been to any of the major cities in California, you can't go a block without seeing, homelessness or, tent cities. It's fucking ridiculous. And people are fed up with this shit. They're just tired of it. And they want some sort of order to be restored. And they want their cities to be livable. I mean, we're Arizona. We border California. We're getting a lot of Californians moving here. A lot of Californians moving to Texas. I think California is having a mass exodus right now. Elon Musk is pulling his companies out of California. He just recently announced that he's moving X to Austin, and he's moving SpaceX to Starbase, Texas, right? And he's doing that because of the legalities, the taxes, and the leftist policies coming out of California. He doesn't want to support them anymore, right? And people are just fed up with this crap. They're just tired of it. I mean, in Phoenix, for example, toward the end of the Obama years, we started to see lots of homelessness and vagrants cropping up in the city where we never had that before. Never, ever had that before. Suddenly being on welfare or having an EBT card, or being on government assistance was now not something you should be ashamed of. It's something that you should be proud of. Your free benefits are something you should be proud of. And as long as government's giving you enough to survive, you should be thankful. And these are the things that, people who work for a living and people who own businesses do not appreciate on any level. And I think more and more Americans are realizing that the governments over the last 10, 15 years specifically, but even going back further, they're all guilty of it. They've made a population dependent on government. Government has expanded and things have not gotten better. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I see right now. It's the attitude toward government is just reaching a fever pitch to the point where people are just fed up and they're enough is enough. We need something different.
Okay, maybe one last thing about the election that I just read a couple hours ago. And as you know, I'm getting all of the information in my life from X, so I gotta see if they're accurate. Some people have been claiming that there are like new polls out there showing that K- Kamala Harris is actually surprisingly ahead of Trump in the election. And is that legit? Or, like, are these like real news? Or because I never see any kind of sources, so I feel like I have to believe what I read. But
Hmm.
yeah, what is like the U.S. media saying about that?
Well, the U.S. media is promoting Kamala Harris for sure. I mean, they're definitely in her court. You can tell that they're basically a cheerleader for the Democratic Party, and that's been the case for many years. So I don't expect it to change this go round. I haven't looked at the polls, or at least the sources of the polls. I think the best thing to do when you see a poll is to just look at the raw data. And if it's an accurate poll, they should post sourcing information along with the poll, and you can just look up yourself, because sometimes you can tell that only specific populations were polled at specific times to skew the data. And really, what you want is a poll that's broad and general and taken from different parts of the country and different times of day, so that you can kind of get a sense for the average. And until I look at the data, I really don't put much stock into a poll. What I can tell you is that the energy of the average person is favoring Trump. Everywhere I go, people are fed up with the Democratic Party in general, except for just the most, heinously convicted leftists. People in the middle are leaning towards Trump. I mean, I was on a Twitter space, or an X space, this past weekend, and the title of it was, who are you voting for? And it was a bunch of New Yorkers, right? New York is one of the most, I guess, I mean, New York always votes for the most part for the Democratic Party. But there were hundreds of people in the space, and the people who were speaking, mainly from New York, were saying that they were voting for Trump. And that speaks volumes. When you've got people in leftist areas who are choosing to vote for Trump, that tells you a lot about their faith in the Democratic Party and the faith in the direction of that party. So I got to give them credit, because, when you look at results, if you base your decision making on results, there's no denying that democratic politics in Democratic-led cities have lagged and failed drastically over the last 2 to 3 decades. And it's to their credit that they're able to say, hey, I'm done with this. I want to try something new. So it's interesting, man. It'll be it should be a really exciting night for a lot of people who follow politics, I would say.
Yeah, definitely, especially because it feels like, for example, when I am on X and I'm obviously in some sort of crypto bubble. It When I read through all of that, it feels like, yeah, Trump is going to have some kind of landslide win. But when I go to some like what you would probably call mainstream media, like even if I go on YouTube and listen to some guys like just asking people on the streets, and I hear these people like talking about, hey, Trump, he staged that assassination attempt and blah blah blah, and then you hear like 10 people in a row speaking against Trump, and you're like, okay, maybe like the opinion I had was wrong. And then you're like, okay, it depends on who you listen to, and these guys are probably going to create the opinion I'll have in the end. But it's definitely interesting to hear your opinion as well, because that's what you said in the beginning. You feel like there is going to be a landslide win for Trump. But from my today's perspective, at least, I feel like everything can happen. And yeah, I couldn't be more excited, definitely, about that. But yeah, let's see what's going to happen in the next couple of months. I mean, we still have a couple of weeks coming up, and let's see what Kamala. I think she's not even officially like being presented as replacing Biden, if I'm right. And so yeah, I think we have a couple of interesting weeks ahead, and then November is going to be the showdown.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be funny to see what happens. I think there's been a lot of opinions on different sides on how things went down or why things went down, but ultimately the results will tell the tale, and speculating on it really is pointless at this time, because at the end of the day, nobody knows what's going to happen. It's kind of fun to talk about, but I can't control it. You can't control it. No individual can control it. It's just going to come down to what people do when they get in the ballot box and cast their vote. And assuming the elections are, 100%, then we'll get a result that we can then run with. And I think, I think small business is going to be excited if Trump wins. I think right now there's a lot of business owners who are just feeling defeated by all of the policy and taxes and the BS that they have to go through on the day to day just to run their businesses. I think they feel like Trump would be a welcome change in terms of relieving some of that. But I think a lot of it just comes down to energy. Like when your guy wins, you're energized, right? So we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping that the economy gets a boost and that people get a little bit of a reprieve in feeling defeated and depressed about what's been going on in the nation.
Yeah, man, that's something we can hope for. But let's jump into the Goodfellas NFT. And we also had a pretty intense week because we have minted the second piece from Darius under the Veil collection. And yeah, it was pretty interesting because for the first time we distributed mint passes to the people, and these will be used for future mints as well. And yeah, how did you like the mint? I saw that we had some members like STC who even wanted to have three pieces. And I mean, let's be honest, looking at Solana prices, prices increasing. So a piece was almost like 45 to $50. So minting three pieces is definitely a commitment, and like a presentation of how much she liked and loved the art, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. She's a massive collector, and I love her. Like she shows up and she really shows out for the people that she supports. And I mean, she's just an amazing, amazing person and presence and energy in the community. And we've done a pretty good job, I think, of honoring people like that. Obviously, we want to continue to find those people. I know they're out there, sort of lost in the vastness of crypto X, but the more of them that we can find, especially the newer people who are coming into the market and bring them in, I think the more excitement we can bring to these artists and the more we can support people. But overall, it was a very long week for me. I had a lot of technical work to do, and I was just happy that the drop went off successfully. And the artwork, obviously, I'd seen it before. I was always looking forward to it, and I love the fact that Daria did a good job. Like she did a really great job of supporting herself, which I feel like a lot of artists don't do. So she was out on X and she was letting people know about the drop, and she was letting people know how to get a mint pass. And then she came to our spaces and showed up and talked about the piece. And these are things that, as an artist who wants to build a following, these are things you have to commit to doing. And so I got to give her a lot of credit as well for stepping up to the plate and really, doing her best to showcase her work. So overall, I couldn't be happier with the way it went.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And what I wanted to add is, I mean, you definitely gave some shout outs to Daria now, but I wanted to tell people a little bit about when I'm in discussions with artists and we talk about like the artist incubator and joining it and like cooperating with each other. There have been some artists who were not um, willing to speak on spaces. And this is exactly what you just said. Like, you have to be able to promote your own art. And I mean, when you guys want to re-listen to the spaces, you could see that Daria answered every single question regarding her art, why she did everything, how she did it, why she drew it like this or that, and that was great. I mean, that is, you can see her passion for what she does. And when you get to artists and they're not even willing to speak on spaces. I mean, I remember Daria telling me before we had the first space with her, when we introduced her, she was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do it 100%, but please bear with me because it's going to be my first spaces. I've never talked in public, and she did such a great job. She is speaking very good. I mean, she's not a native speaker as well, and she managed to do it great. And I love when we have her on spaces, when she talks about the art, when we can actually provide, like, the artists to like for our community as well, because these are the guys minting the art, these are the guys loving the art. And when we can actually get in touch and get on spaces with artists, and they can actually speak about the art they created, I think it's actually such a great thing. And yeah, couldn't be more happy with Daria about that. And she promoted it great. She did a great job on X and everything. So in case she's listening to this, yeah, big shout outs to you. And yeah, two more drops ahead, but the focus for now is going to be on the Batchman, because we are it's our birthday next week. Is it next week or the week after? I'm not sure. I think
Yeah,
it's
next
Monday, right?
Monday, I believe. Yeah, the
Yeah,
5th.
exactly. So we are going to be 1 year old. It's a 1 year anniversary. So it's actually not, but it's like we are. I think we minted the first collection exactly 1 year ago on August 5th, 2023. I think we started working a couple months earlier, but yeah, it's going to be crazy, and it's going to be in my opinion. I mean, I haven't seen the whole batch. It's actually your thing. You can maybe tell us a little bit about the art, but the outstanding thing, and this is that we actually managed to work together with a community member, with Yvette, who created backgrounds for us, and who actually brought such a different, like angle, almost like to the old Goodfellas collection. It's so good and so great, and I love what she did, and I love the outcome, and can't wait to present the results to our people. And yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the progress of I don't know, trades, or like have you already generated some pieces, or what's the current, yeah, how far are you?
Yeah, so this week basically is all about finalizing the art. And as you mentioned before, Yvette has created some super colorful backgrounds that really go with our, sort of motif around the greens, purples, blues, reds that we have laced throughout the collection in certain spots. And her backgrounds are going to be non-solid color, which is going to be fantastic because there's going to be a different vibe on every piece that holds one of these multicolored backgrounds. And as you said, it basically makes the artwork feel completely different. It looks very fresh and new, and I'm stoked to get these pieces out. We'll probably have, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20% of the new collection will hold those backgrounds. And, we'll lace them into future drops as well. But on this particular drop, you'll have a 1 in 10 or a 2 in 10 chance of minting one of those pieces. And there's a couple hand traits that we're going to be bringing forth that I'm going to be finalizing this week, as well as a fresh 1 of 1 like we always do. And, hopefully everything is completely ready and uploaded, and, mint page is live no later than Wednesday night, Thursday at the latest. And yeah, that'll be how it basically rolls. So that's kind of where it's at right now. Got a lot of work to do to prep the data and to finalize the artwork. But that's my focus for the next few days. So it shouldn't be an issue getting it out. And then, of course, this will be our eighth batch of 800, or our eighth batch of 100 pieces. Batchment number 7, I believe it is. Started with 0, or is it our 7? I'll have to look and see. It's either our 700th or 800th total to the collection. I can't remember if we're at 600 now or 700 now, but I have to go back and look. But as we approach that 1,000-piece sort of threshold, we'll start talking a little bit about differentiating the art as well and going into eras. And so to that end, there is one thing that I've done recently that I haven't really talked much about, and because I don't have any finalization on it just yet, but there is another chain called Stargaze that we were invited to submit art for a grant by one of our former AI artists, Maria. And Maria sent me information on applying for a grant for Stargaze because Stargaze is actively building their NFT community. And so I submitted an application to join and started talking to some of the people on that chain and started, building some relationships there as well. And so it could be that one of our first eras, meaning one of the first variants of the existing art, will go live on Stargaze. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if we win the grant. But either way, at the 1,000-piece mark, we're going to reissue the artwork in a different style of some form, even if it's just minor improvements. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing what happens. But next Monday, a week from today, will be our anniversary. So we'll have our mint anniversary from the first collection. So we'll have that ready to go. And, I'm stoked to mint. I'm going to be minting pretty hard because obviously I hold quite a few bosses and I want to make sure that I have enough pieces early on to, earn AU, get the token mints, and then also complete those 100-piece families. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Leave some pieces for the rest, man. But what I'm struggling with is I usually put out some sneak peeks before the mints, and I feel like it's actually a pretty hard decision this time because I mean you have seen the final pieces already, or like the sneak peeks that you created with Yvette in the Discord group, and I feel like I wouldn't deliver the right. Um, like imagine I would actually put out a sneak peek and blurring everything. I feel like it's not like it doesn't do like justice to the piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. It definitely, the blurring of anything doesn't really do it justice, right? It's just one of those things where
Yeah,
you
and I
can.
feel like that there will probably be like so many people loving the new pieces, but I feel like I'm not sure if we should give them a glimpse of what it's going to look like or if they should be surprised. But I feel like once we start minting and people will like what they see and maybe want what they see, but they are not able to get it because we've, I don't know, minted out already. And that's why I had the thoughts of, having sneak peeks. But I don't want to take too much away beforehand. So yeah, not sure. We may have to talk about that in private.
Yeah, for sure. We can talk more about that. For me, it's a lot like fishing. When I go to mint something, it reminds me of going fishing back in the day. And I think, like fishing in a lot of ways is like the excitement comes from, when you hook a fish, you don't know what it is until you get it close to the boat. So it's kind of like if you know what it is, it almost takes a little bit of the excitement away. So, one of the reasons that we blur things is so that when you do mint, you can have that experience of first seeing it, because that's something that you can never get back. And I see a lot of projects just like posting, their like completed artwork all over the place. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. To give people an idea, but people already have an idea of what our artwork looks like. So the question is, what's different about it? And I think the different is, when we add traits or backgrounds or, new designs, whatever the case may be, the difference is what I want to be surprised by. So that's one of the reasons that I generally send over like marketing pieces that are blurred out.
Yeah, man. And that's like, I feel like it would probably be the better way to keep that surprise. And when we mint, I'm not sure it's actually going to be a Monday. We mentioned it. Maybe we have to, or we can think about like swapping podcast and spaces this time, and maybe go live on Monday. Because I'd love to. That would actually be a pretty good occasion to like invite our community to the spaces to get them live reactions, in my opinion. But I know that a lot of people usually do not have time and or prefer listening or something. But yeah, we can definitely discuss if we want to have spaces with the Betterment. It's our birthday. We should have, I think. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the mint, and I think people are going to love the new style of the fellas.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like a great idea, and maybe we can, move it up to like 11 a.m. or 6 p.m. UTC, so that more people can be there. I know that a lot of people are coming from work in Europe at that time, so who knows?
Mhm.
But I'm definitely open to having a live Spaces on Monday. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Should actually be unfortunately we are both Android, but we should would be great to have like the first video spaces. But unfortunately, man, what's up, Elon? Like make it live, like make it possible for Android phones as well.
Oh, it's only
Um,
available on
yeah,
Apple right now.
yeah. Looks like it's only available on iOS.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's too bad. Yeah,
too
well,
bad.
it'll
Yeah,
be. I'm
definitely.
sure it'll be released soon enough, and we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. It looks like Elon is not a fan of Google.
Yeah, I don't think he's a fan, based on some of his posts recently. I don't think he's too much of a fan of Google for sure.
Yeah, but let's see. Okay, I think we are good for today. I mentioned the most important topics. We talked about the good fellas. Do you have anything left to say?
Nope, I think we covered it, man. It was a good to connect. Obviously, lots of stuff to talk about today. It was a good one. Enjoyed it, and looking forward to getting this artwork knocked out in the mint on Monday.
All right, fellas. So thank you for listening. Looking forward to Spaces on Friday, and yeah, have a great week. See you next time. Bye
Take care,
bye.
guys. Bye bye.